And then all of a sudden, I just, for some reason, I was like, The Sound of Silence by Disturbed. I'm going to throw that on. And man, it's going to sound dramatic, but I feel like I had this moment that will be cemented in my life, like this vision that I will have forever. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chasing Wild podcast, your home for all the best content on conservation, wildlife, and adventure. Our mission is to bring the wild to you. We're your hosts, Jake Johnson, Dean Dudzik. Dean, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. We've been working on some lighting in both of our studios, trying to improve the quality a bit. So little steps at a time, like we were just saying, and you know, trying to improve a little bit. But we're excited to talk about a cool story today. So I'm excited to listen. And Jake, how are you feeling about today?
You know, I'm feeling good. And actually, I wanted to ask you, throwing a little curveball off the bat. So at the time of recording, it's about to be Thanksgiving. I wanted to ask you, got any plans for the holidays?
We'll just have a family get together for Thanksgiving, keeping it small. We used to have bigger family functions when I was a kid, but just keeping it small. And luckily, I got the day off of work, so that's nice. So
That's
be able
really
to
nice.
enjoy the full day with the family. What about you?
Yeah, this is the first year, so being a zookeeper, the animals got to get fed. So typically we work, Thanksgiving, Christmas, someone's got to be there to feed them, to take care of them. I do work Thanksgiving, but this is the first year we're able to kind of do a shorter shift. So I'll be out like hopefully around 10, 11 o'clock,
Yeah.
which is nice because that's the first time since I've been a zookeeper that I'll have earlier Thanksgiving off. Going to this year, we switch off Thanksgiving every year. So this year we're going to be at my wife's house. So we go to her parents. They have a really fun time, play some card games, which I always miss. So I'm excited to be there. And it's the perfect year to be there because it's our daughter's first Thanksgiving. She was born back in March. So really pumped about that. And I just by chance have Christmas Eve and Christmas off this year that just fall on my days off. So
That's awesome.
it was meant to be. Yeah.
I gotta ask Jake, what card games you guys playing?
Well, play a lot of. Technically, it's not a card game, but we played a lot of spoons.
Yeah.
Do you ever play spoons before?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
that's a classic Thanksgiving game, I would say, at least for us.
yeah. Oh man, I'm very competitive, and so I really
Oh yeah.
enjoy being part of it. So Maddie's aunt's husband, so Maddie's uncle, he's super good at spoons, and it's I like competing against him, but.
Yeah.
A lot of
Same.
fun. Excited to be there. It's going to be a good time just in a couple days now. But yeah, like Dean talked about, today I'm going to be going through a trip I went back on in 2019. So I went to Baja, California, which is a Mexican state just south of San Diego on the Baja California Peninsula. I was there for 10 days with the Project Dragonfly Master's Program. So Project Dragonfly works with Miami University for a master's program. I got my master's through there. And they have a whole bunch of they're called Earth expeditions, so different places you can go to during your time in the program. And for my first trip, I went to Baja, so it was an incredible experience. I had so much fun. We spent the first 5 days in the desert and the next 5 days we were so it was called the Rancho San Gregorio. That's the name of the ranch. We're in the Sonoran Desert. And then the other half of the trip was going to be on the Gulf of Mexico. So they're on the Vermilion Sea Institute. So that was a really cool time. Yeah, just a quick short trip, but honestly, I wanted to talk about it because this Baja trip was so impactful for me. Again, it's only 10 days, but the amount of things that I've been able to take away from it and what it really meant to me in that time and still now to this day, it was so important. So it kind of set me on this path of being the change that I want to see in the world. It's a Gandhi quote, but the whole trip was really inspirational. I learned so many things, and most importantly, I got out of my comfort zone and was just able to see that, I can be, whoever I want to be. I can do these things that I want to do. So it was an amazing time, and yeah, started to jump into it.
Yeah, and before we do jump into it, I'm really excited to hear the details, obviously. I just wanted to kind of ask you, like, before we really get into it, kind of start before the trip. Why
hmm
did you choose Baja as a destination for the program for Project Dragonfly over the other destinations? Because I know there was some other options when it
Hmm.
comes to doing field trips for that program. So why was it Baja over another place?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. So for those of you who don't know, there's like 10 to 15 different places you can go. There's like Kenya, the Galapagos Islands, India. I mean, there's a variety of places across the world. But for your first trip, you always have to, so you do 3 trips if you're in the Earth Expeditions, the GFP program, Global Field Program. But the first trip, you have to choose between either Baja California or Belize. And the trip in Belize, you're going to be working a lot at the zoo there, a lot of the Belize Zoo. And I felt like just because I was a zookeeper and I already spent so much time at a zoo that I felt like it would be more beneficial for me to try something different. So that's why I chose Baja.
Okay. And also, just a little follow up to
Hmm.
that question. Was there any sort of like hesitations, or were you reluctant at all when you kind of fell on Baja as a destination over Belize?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's another reason I want to talk so much about this trip is because my perceptions beforehand would have, the barriers I kind of put on the trip and the thoughts that I had were like, okay, I'm not excited to go to the desert. I mean, I tend to want to follow like, big megafauna. So like, I would like to go to, the Amazon rainforest and see the biodiversity there, a trip to Serengeti, because you're seeing, all these animals on safari. I really never had a desire to go to a desert ecosystem, so that really didn't excite me. But the second half at the Vermilion Sea Institute, they're on the water. You're right on the water. They're in the Gulf of California, so Sea of Cortez. That was exciting to me. However, my biggest fear is open water. So, like, ever since I was a kid, I don't know if it was watching Jaws, my dad's favorite movie with him when I was little or something, but I was always afraid of the open water. And knowing that some of the trip I was gonna have to snorkel, I was a little, I was a little apprehensive. So yeah, before the trip, I was like, again, I chose it over Belize. There was no saying which one I would get for sure. You don't get to automatically go on the one you want, but
Okay.
I wanted to do something new. But yeah, I was like not super stoked about the desert, and then I was also really nervous about the ocean. So yeah, I had a lot of feelings going in.
Okay. So like you said, the trip was split up into two
Hmm.
different parts, the desert and the ocean. We're gonna start with the desert today.
Hmm.
That's what we're gonna be focusing on today. So why don't we just start with maybe the day before the trip, getting ready, maybe even the day of, wherever you want to kind of kick off with your first sort of memories with the beginning of the Baja trip.
Yeah, cool. So and like Dean's talking about, we're gonna have a two-parter here. So when I was going through the trip and just thinking about how I kind of want to lay it out, I thought it was more important to split up the two destinations. So part one's gonna be all about the desert, the time I had there, and then part two will be about the experience I had in at the Vermilion Sea Institute. Again, alluding to that whale shark, which is kind of the culmination of both the stories. But yeah, so just gonna jump in, like you said, day one, or I guess day zero, kind of flying into San Diego. I got to spend the day alone, and honestly, I'd never really been anywhere on my own before, like just like totally solo. So got to jumped on one of like the little bird bikes, and just rode around San Diego. I went and saw some sea lions on the coast. Went to a bar, just doing things solo, and it was a lot of fun. Kind of set the scene for all right, I'm not with my people. I'm kind of out of my comfort zone now.
Yeah.
Stayed at the hotel. Next morning, wake up, and this is where we're meeting all of our different classmates, our professors, the people who are going to be driving us down there. So it's a 9 hour car ride or a van ride to the ranch. So we're starting in the desert, 9 hour car ride, and you got two vans, so they hold about 10 people. So I think there was like I don't know 17 classmates or something. Half of us in one van, half of us in the other. You got two drivers. And yeah, I remember I'm a people person, so I get energized by, new conversations and new people. And we're just kind of all meeting, getting to know each other. And then we jump in a van and you're going to be on the same trip with them for 9 hours. And that was cool, but it was really fun just kind of driving up there. So we crossed over the Mexican border, shortly into the drive. I think it was just like an hour or so. And then, I'm asking questions like, all right, what's everyone's favorite movie? What's your, what do you think your spirit animal is? Just icebreaker stuff, getting to know people. And I remember we had our first stop. So while you're driving, this is a, pretty thin peninsula. I think it's 806 miles. And for people who like go on like more touristy trips, the end of the peninsula is Cabo. So like it starts
Yeah.
with San Diego, Mexico border right there, and then the end of the peninsula is Cabo. So that's kind of
Okay.
the stretch. But on the right hand side, you're looking at the ocean, and then on the left hand side while you're driving, you got like stores, you got houses, occasionally nothing, and then eventually you kind of start to get to a point where there's less stores, there's less houses, and then there's nothing, and then you're just kind of looking at just like openness. And the right side again, you're still following the coast the whole time. And I remember we took a stop at this kind of beautiful lookout. There's no one there. And we get out of the car, we get out of the van for the first time in a while, and I just remember putting my feet in the sand, the smell of the ocean. You know, you've got like the open ocean ahead of you, which I think is one of the coolest like tone setters because it's just so, I don't know, humbling. Like wow, there's just vast ocean in front of you, and I remember just kind of that was really setting the scene for all right, we're on adventure. Jump back in the van, and actually we switched up cars at that point, so you're getting to know different people. And like I'm talking about, the development starts to fade away, and all of a sudden you realize you're in the mountains. So you've got this like reddish, yellowish tan mountains that you're going through, and they're super high up, and there's this winding road, and it was really nothing like I anticipated, especially how the drive started. So you're going through this like you can kind of cue the John Williams music at this point. Like you're okay, you're on adventure. Whether it's Indiana Jones or some Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And I was playing that in the car at that point, which is
Oh yeah.
always fun because music to moments, it's great.
And Jake, up
But
until this point, before you
yeah,
get to the mountains, is it? I'm trying to picture it. Is it pretty flat up until this point, like terrain wise, pretty smooth ride, and then you get to the mountains and it's kind of getting a little bit, more elevation, a little bit rockier. Am I
yeah.
understanding that
The
right?
the roads themselves are the same, so it's same
Okay.
old kind of paved roads,
Okay.
highways. But the difference was it was a lot more congested in the beginning. It was more like you're still in San Diego kind of vibe. Like you've got
Yeah.
cars, you've got trucks, you've got semis passing, whatever.
Okay.
Like there's still a lot of noise going on, I could say.
Okay.
But then really after that first stop and just kind of we did stop too to get lunch. Had some fish tacos, best fish tacos I've ever had in my life. Amazing. But yeah, after that, it really started to kind of quiet down. You started to see a lot less cars, and that's what really felt like, okay, we're out here. This is our trip now.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
but yeah, at first it was pretty flat, and then it just felt like out of nowhere, all of a sudden you've got these mountains ahead of you, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool. Good question though. Um, and the whole first day, we know that we're going to a hotel. So we're going to stop at a hotel. We get there at night. This is the last time that we're going to have service or running water or air conditioning for a while. So I remember took a nice shower, talked to my parents, talked to my brother, and then I called my girlfriend, talked to her for a long time because, not used to not talking or seeing her for, extended period of time. So that's going to be last time for a while. And then next morning you wake up and you drive out of that service. And it had happened once before when I was in the Serengeti. As soon as you got to Ngorongoro Crater, like we were out of the cell service range.
Yeah.
But I just remember like sending a text message and all of a sudden just like not going through. And I love that. I love the opportunity to unplug and just really, there's no Google to answer your questions. There's no emails that you're getting that are distracting you, no texts, no calls. Sure, you miss talking to the people at home, but you just get to really immerse yourself in the moment and the experience. So I always love that.
Did
Yeah.
you keep your, so like obviously you didn't have service like you said. Did you even keep your phone on for pictures or anything, or did you throw it in a backpack? What did you do with that?
I think just comfort and like how familiar it is to have your phone in your pocket, at least for me.
Okay.
Like I had it in my pocket, and we did, like, once we got there, we were using it for, we were doing some field methods out in the field and,
Okay.
taking pictures or using it as a timer. So
Yeah.
yes, but you used it a lot less. And unless you were using it as like a tool to like record something, there
Right.
was no reason to pull it out. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to jump on Instagram or something. It was none of that.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I did keep it on me, but I only had to charge it like I think twice versus like every night, so that was cool.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we drove that day, and I remember this moment. All of a sudden, there was kind of like this like veer off point, and you could kind of go on this trail, and we went on it, and it was like bumpy back road desert. Like I'm talking so bumpy that you're like hitting the ceiling at some points. You're like hitting the ceiling of the venue. Boom, boom. Everyone's laughing, having a good time. But
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, and it was right off the highway. I was thinking that this was going to last for maybe an hour. Sorry, I thought it was going to last for maybe like, 20, 30 minutes. All of a sudden, like an hour or two go by, and you're like, all right, we're still just driving in the middle of nowhere. Like you can hardly see that there's a path. And this is where you're really starting to get into like the vegetation, and you're looking like scanning for wildlife and stuff, because now you're in the desert. You're not seeing the ocean anymore. Like you're just driving straight into the heart of the desert. Not seeing anyone, not a single soul since we popped off the highway. And I remember pulling up to the ranch for the first time and thinking like, well, like this is it, like we're so used to all of this like development, these structures, and you just drive up. There's a modest garden in the middle. It's a good sized garden, but nothing crazy. And then right beyond that, you've got a bigger building, just one story, and that's going to be your like kind of like our mess hall area. So that's where we did all our classroom stuff. That's where we ate our meals. And it's all open air. It's like anyone can walk in or out. And then you've got just like a couple outhouses, no running water, like I said. And then a couple buildings off to the right, just like small little structures. And that's where the people live. So I'm sure that maybe they had air conditioning. I don't know. We didn't go in there, but, yeah. And I remember driving up and it was like, okay. And for those who don't know, like Baja California is home to the largest cactus species. And so you've got these like ginormous cacti all around you. You've got so many different like species of plants and animals, which you don't see as often, but it was just it wasn't like I expected. You kind of think like uniform like elevation of the plants and stuff, but total variety of species there, both flora and fauna. And yeah, and I remember one of my classmates being like, so we get out of the car, we're walking around, we go up to this huge kind of like boulder area, there's a boulder field, climbing these rocks. We're searching for snakes, we're searching for lizards, anything we can. And then we get back and we're doing lunch now, and one of our classmates goes, "Where are we supposed to sleep?" And our professor's like, "Actually, you're going to be sleeping on those." And they point to the corner, and there's just these like wooden cots, like simple as it could be. You just pull them out, you unfold them. They're like 3-4 feet off the ground, and that's where we're going to be sleeping, just anywhere on the property. And the property is acres and acres of property, so like anywhere in the desert. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, all of my thoughts and perceptions I had beforehand up to that moment, like I didn't know how it was going to be. And that in that moment, we're going to be sleeping under the stars outside. You're thinking of snakes and scorpions and, spiders and stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You're going to be sleeping out there with them. So I thought that was really cool. And that kind of set the scene for I'm not in control anymore. I'm out of my, let's say, comfort zone per se. Like this is a new moment for me. But yeah, that was pulling up to the ranch, and that was really cool.
Yeah, and at that point, you almost have to, well, with the service being gone, which I love doing that when I'm on trips similar to the one you're talking about. Like my family and I go to northern Wisconsin every year to go fishing, and it's pretty rural up there. Not great service. There is some, but I'll power my phone down and I'll leave it in my room, like on the nightstand for the entire week, like go out on the boat without my phone and just try to enjoy it as much as I can. And not only to like appreciate the nature, but also just to remove myself from the noise of back home. And I'm sure that's like something similar that you felt at the beginning of this trip and throughout. So I think that's so cool. And then obviously when you're talking about, them pointing over the cots and like, that's where you're going to sleep. It's just an open air. You don't have a room. You don't have air conditioning. You kind of, if you want to really like enjoy the trip and immerse yourself in it, you kind of have to like give yourself over to the elements in a way.
Yeah, dude, I love that.
And commit to it. You know what I mean? I think that's so cool. But
yeah, so and you pull up and you realize, like you're saying, like, okay, this is the authentic experience that we're about to get, and you can either fight against it, which there's no reason because you're there, you're gonna be there either way, or like you said, you can give yourself over to the elements and just enjoy the
Hmm.
ride. And yeah, I think any adventure, and like I learned that when I went to the Serengeti for the first time in 2017.
Yeah.
But for any adventure, I highly recommend everyone just give yourself over to the moment because you're gonna learn so much about everything around you and yourself in those moments. And then, yeah, just as far as unplugging goes, like not having that service or powering your phone down, whatever it is, it's therapeutic, right? Like you
Oh,
realize
totally.
how much we are attached to our phones, regardless of what you're using it for. Like
Yeah.
and it's nice to not even have that choice. It's just gone.
Hmm.
Like it's not an option. You can't call anyone. You don't worry about it. Like it's happening. Um, and yeah, and you start to like kind of fade the noise, and it's really calming. And if I was to like sum up one of the most important feelings I had there, it's really just like the stillness of the desert.
Hmm.
Like there's not a lot of wind. There's hardly any wind, honestly. At least when we were in kind of a basin area surrounded by mountains,
Okay.
so there's not a lot of wind where we were at. And then there's not a lot of noise, right? You even like in the Amazon rainforest, you have all these different birds calling and animals just galore, but it's super quiet there, very still, and
Yeah.
it's again very like therapeutic, kind of like you're taking a beat, just taking a second. So, um, and I remember before I get into just sleeping under the stars, I just wanted to throw a huge shout out to like everyone I went with on the trip, from the students that we were there with, like from the people that were my classmates that I had been in the class with online beforehand, just getting to meet them, be with them. I mean, I just texted one of my friends from there today that I hadn't talked to in a while because we had just hit it off so well and it was so much fun. But it was really like lightning in a bottle. You had so many people who were there for the same reason, who were so positive and so inspirational, and who were so willing to be vulnerable in a way,
Mhm.
just kind of be very open and
Yeah.
honest about themselves. And you got no judgment. These people don't know you and they're not part of your home life. So you can be very vulnerable. So, um, that was a huge part of the trip, and just getting to like let go of whoever you thought you were and just be who you are in that moment. So
Hmm.
that was cool. And that led to night one. So I chose to, me and a couple of the guys that I got to know during the van ride, Alex, Fenn, and Justin Grubb specifically, we kind of walked off on our own and took our cots, and we really like went away from everyone. A lot of people slept near the mess hall area, and we just went kind of, off on our own. And I remember that night we were all sitting there under the stars, and there's no light pollution, right? So it was the second best night sky I had seen since the Serengeti. Like only the Serengeti, the 5 days I was there, was better. Like this was absolutely incredible. You're looking up at the galaxy, you're looking up the Milky Way, all these stars, shooting stars galore. Like it's really humbling and breathtaking, and you're
Hmm.
looking for constellations and all this stuff. But we're sitting there, and for those people who may not like, and this was a misconception for me, you go to the desert and you think like, oh, it's hot, and it is hot during the day. Like it gets pretty hot, and it is a bright sun, not a lot of clouds. But at night it gets cold, like really cold. I went from being shorts and t-shirt, like sunscreen galore because I'm super pale, to like in every piece of clothing that I had, like Patagonia on top, in the sleeping bag on the cot. I'm like, man, I'm cold out here. It was chilly, but yeah. So we're sitting there and we're looking up at the night sky, and you're just talking to these again strangers. You just met them the day before, and you're having these really impactful conversations. So those are some of the memories that I'll remember for like the rest of my life. The conversations
Hmm.
that I had, the relationships I built, and it was really cool. And every night was like that. Just getting to sleep under the stars was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was night one, beginning the desert, and again we're there for 5 days. So, uh, I would
And
say,
before you go into day two, I don't know if you mentioned, but where were you guys? Where did you guys actually sleep for the night? Like, where were your cots?
yeah. So, and I have the picture in my head because I've been there, but I was talking about driving up, like you're driving up to the ranch and you see the
Hmm.
garden in the front and then the mess hall off to the right. So like there's mountains all around you. So it
Yeah.
is kind of like if you kind of feel like you're tucked in a way, but it's still like probably I don't know how many acres, but it's a big space to the mountain.
Yeah.
So me and those two other guys had walked like pretty far off, probably like 100 yards to the right of the garden.
Okay.
It just like just kept walking, like, oh, this looks like a good even spot. Let's just sit here. And again, just out in the middle of the desert. Like there's mountain lions out there. There's, lots of cool species out there, but yeah, so that's where we were, and we just wanted to kind of
Okay.
be off on our own. So that's why we went out there. But I'm not gonna go like day to day, but just I remember a few of the cool experiences that I had were, again, talking about that stillness. I remember we were encouraged to journal a lot, which
Mm.
I was never a big journaler, but like looking back on it and just reading my journal, getting in preparation for this podcast, so cool. I captured so many amazing moments that I definitely would have forgotten had I not, just wrote it down. But
Mm.
sitting on top of these giant boulder fields and, kind of like looking out into just the openness of nothing but the desert for as far as you can see. Reflecting on the moments and the experiences. And then the whole trip was for field methods. That was the premise of this course. So it was to teach people about field methods that like field biologists would be doing out in the field, transect lines, quadric studies, stuff like that. But
Mhm.
it was taught to us more in a way that it could be used as a participatory education tool. So like how getting people involved in these, like doing like mini field studies, right? So like doing like a 2 hour research project out in the desert,
Yeah.
which is like this kind of stuff that we would do. How it can
Yeah.
show you and engage you in the surrounding area, in the wildlife, in the plants and the people. So that was really cool because we were doing those like different field studies during the day,
Yeah.
and then another huge, and I think this is just kind of a testament to the people that were there, like the people who run the program, but they were so focused on us really trying to talk about like deeper thoughts, just kind of like open up, like I said, be vulnerable, be
Mm.
encouraging, be creative, be positive. And I referenced that many times in my journal, how it was so nice to be around people who are just like genuinely willing to hear like what you wanted to do in the world, maybe the things that you had been struggling with, mental health stuff, anything, and just like getting a real honest opinions on that and then giving advice and feedback to people.
Sure.
So that was cool. And we so I'll kind of jump forward a little bit. Now the whole group has gotten to know each other really well, right? We're all jiving with
Mhm.
each other. It's a really good fun thing. We're hiking up the mountains. We're looking for endangered bighorn sheep or critically endangered in the area. We're looking for antelope. We're not finding a lot of like mammals per se, but we're finding a lot of like reptiles and birds, and obviously plants. And then we get to the last day of the trip, and we had done so many cool things. We're all, again, just really jiving with each other. And I remember the person who ran the ranch. So I'm going a little story on the just like the culture of the area. So the guy who owns the ranch, his name is Raphael, and the ranch had been in his family for the past since the 1700s, since the early 1700s. So like this has been his family's land for a long, long time, centuries. And essentially what came to be was there was some kind of family disputes in probably like the 1950s or something, and the a lot of the family wanted to sell the land because there were people wanting to develop, wanted to kind of move out to the desert, expansion, how it happens.
Mhm.
But Raphael was one of the key parts of like not wanting to let go. He's a holistic health practitioner. I'll go into more detail on that later, but like so the surrounding vegetation and just like his natural surroundings were really important to him. So he didn't want to let go, and he was kind of fighting with them. And then there was this other guy, an American. His name was Lane, and he had gone out to the desert, and he essentially fell in love. He'd read all these books about Baja California, knew a lot of the land, went out there, just really got to know it, and he came to know Raphael, and he basically told him, "Hey, I will like buy the land as a co-owner. So me and you can co-own this land. And this is like, again, acres and acres of desert. And it's now a biological reserve, which is one of the things that they did.
Wow.
Instead of it
That's
becoming
awesome.
like development, it became a
Yeah.
biological reserve for those species. Um, but he offered to buy the land and for them to co-own it and co-run it. And his stipulation was he wanted to bring students out there so that students and other people could get to share this learning experience that he had had out in the desert. Thus, the Baja California Earth expedition to the desert was born, right? And that's where it started. So I just think that's really cool because Lane came out there and he's like, look, I'm not looking to take your land. I'm not looking to change it into something. I want to share what you have here with more people,
Hmm.
and I want to keep it as authentic as we can. And so it's incredible. So that's Lane's investment. And then his daughter, whose name is Megan McDonald, who I'll get to in a little bit, is instrumental in kind of why I want to talk about this whole experience in the first hand. She runs the Vermilion Sea Institute. So they came to own land on the coast, and they turned this trip into 5 days in the desert, 5 days at the sea, because it's a really good
Okay.
matching of Baja California's like different ecosystems there. Um, so Raphael, last day, he had been super quiet up to this point. Not hadn't said a whole lot. Very humble, very like, oh, thank you for being here. This is his home. He's got all his dogs. He's got all his, belongings there. Like this is his where he lives full time. He brings us on this like 2 hour hike through the desert, and he is just identifying all these different plant species and telling us the medicinal values that they have and how he uses them for his own job. Like he, again, holistic health practitioner. He learns about the plant species that are there, and he uses them to treat people. So people trek through the desert miles and miles and miles because, again, you're far away from any civilization to get to him. He's well known in the Baja California area, and he treats them. And it's I wish I could give his whole long speech justice, and I wish that I could really make people believe me like I believed him and like it is true. But he treats people who have cancer, who have diabetes, who have cuts on their arms and wounds and stuff like that, and he saves them, he treats them. And he was claiming that all of these plants and the natural surroundings around him provide him the ability to help people, that they can do things that modern medicine can do. And that was really eye-opening to me because I had never really anticipated learning about that. And the itinerary for the trip is specifically vague. Like you're meant to go in with a lot of questions,
Okay.
and you're meant to leave with even more. So,
Okay.
but yeah, just going through that hike and learning about all the different plants that he uses for the medicinal purposes was really inspiring. And then at the end of the hike, you find yourself at the top of this mountain, and there's this like super worn down old structure. At this point, it's just kind of like the outline of what used to be a brick
Hmm.
building. Come to find out, this was the initial ranch that his family had started on. So you're there in this area where in the 1700s, these people, his family, started this ranch, and it was really cool and very powerful standing
Hmm.
in that structure, and just kind of him telling his story. And at the end, he was talking about you know so many people are trying to find who they are, right? Or like trying to be this or trying to be that. He's like, you were born someone. He goes, don't try to, be someone else. Try to become who you're meant to be. Follow your heart, follow your instincts. He goes, don't let society, get in the way of you really trying to follow your passions. And again, I'm not doing his speech any justice. This was 5 years ago now, and I journaled what I could get from it, but really, really, really impactful moments. You've got all these like really cool experiences going on, and again, the anticipations that I had beforehand leading up to those moments is like, well, I couldn't have been more wrong about my experiences so far. And not to mention, every night we're going out and we're looking for species at like during the night. So if you shine a black light on a scorpion, it pops up like super blue, like neon blue.
Yeah.
And so we're going out, we're finding scorpions, we're finding birds, we're hearing noises, we're looking for snakes. Hadn't found any snakes at that point. But yeah, it was just an incredible experience. I guess like, do you have anything to jump in before I kind of jump into the
Yeah.
final segment of this trip?
Yeah, definitely. Before you jump into the very end of it,
Mm-hmm.
what was so like the routine you're talking about going out and seeing these animals? Is a lot of that done, or specifically like the invertebrates and the reptiles? Is that mostly done at night because of the heat of the desert? Does that have anything to do with it? When are you guys going out there and looking for wildlife during the trip?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Because this kind of gives more like a flow of the day. It was so much more. There was so much more freedom than I anticipated.
Okay.
Like we would come in the morning and we'd eat breakfast, and while we were eating, we would get some knowledge or kind of like a speech or, kind of a lecture on the area or maybe what we'd be doing for the day, while we're eating. And then we would typically jump right into some sort of field method study. We'd either jump into like our own individual groups or we'd go out there together and you were supposed to do your own field study. This would usually be a couple hours. We'd come back, and then you'd be given journal time, which was like 2-3 hours. So like people would typically journal for a little bit and then you just go explore. So you can go anywhere you want. There was
Sure.
no boundaries. They were not like, don't go here, don't go there. They're like, the world is your playground. Go have fun. And so that was when we would like go with our professors and maybe pull some of a couple of the drivers that came with us who were family of Raphael's. They're like his,
Okay.
I think one of them was his son, maybe one of his nephew. I can't remember exactly. But
Sure.
so we would go look for a variety of different species during the day in those moments. We didn't have any like guided, like safari time. Like you're we're going to look out for these animals with these people. It was just kind of freedom time that our
Yeah.
professors would join in if they wanted to. And then we'd come back, we'd eat lunch, we'd do another field study thing, and then you'd have basically the rest of the day. And you'd do some
Okay.
like cool kind of reflection talks and some, inspirational talks, maybe a group presentation, whatever. But that was kind of how each day flowed.
Okay.
And then we would all go out at night because we were told to bring black light flashlights because that was how you really could spot a scorpion from like oh my
Yeah.
God, there's one over there, because it would just pop up. Like you go to a bowling alley and then you have like neon light time where everything just
Yeah. Yeah.
the black lights, how they reflect things. So but yeah, that was kind of how each day went, and then you'd end the day under the stars outside. And there's something cool about having not been inside for 5 days. It's just like you feel different. You feel
Yeah.
like you feel the dirt on your face. You feel like you're gonna smell, but I don't know. It's a dry desert there. You bring deodorant. I don't think maybe we all smell and we didn't know it, but I don't know. It was just a very comfortable feeling. I loved the feeling of just like when you have that wind burn on your face and just like
Yeah.
you feel kind of radiant from the outdoors.
And
That's
how
that's
did
how you
you?
felt.
Yeah. And how did you sleep while you're out there? That's another question I wanted to ask.
Okay, well, to no fault of the place that we were at, because like I could sleep anywhere. I could sleep on the floor. I could sleep in a bed, whatever. But I have a hard time sleeping when I go on these trips, not because I can't sleep, but just because I'm like so wired. I remember we would
Okay.
have these conversations, and then I'd be talking to the guys that I was sleeping next to, and they'd be like, "All right, dude, I'm going to bed." I'm like, "All right, cool," and I'd just be sitting there staring up at the sky for like hours. So,
Yeah.
and you're not like looking at your phone like you were. And I remember I would tell them like, "Hey, I'm not gonna set an alarm, so wake me up when class was about to start or something." And so the time construct is different. You're not thinking about it. So, but I
Okay.
remember just sitting up for hours, just looking up at the sky because it was so cool.
Yeah.
But not bad sleep. I'd wake up refreshed, and they have coffee and stuff, so I was all good.
Yeah, man. I ask because when I don't go camping too often, but
Hmm.
I try to do it maybe like once, a few times a year, maybe a few times every other year.
Yeah.
But I remember I went on a trip, a camping trip with one of my good friends to Badlands and Black Hills,
Mm.
and dude, I remember just having the first night. Admittedly, I was kind of like you. I was so wired and like
Hmm. Excited.
and just there's like a storm rolling in that comes out of nowhere. Like out there the storms just appear and all of a sudden you're in like a huge lightning storm and are like tents rustling and the wind's whipping. So admittedly didn't sleep well like the first night, but I can tell you I've never slept like that since. Like sleeping, there's something about sleeping on like the earth when
Hmm.
you're camping, when you're tent camping. I'm talking about like we're out backpacking and tent camping, but there's something about like sleeping on the ground that it just I can't, like, I've never slept that way since. Oh, and you're exhausted at the end of the day too. Like we were doing a
Hmm.
lot of hiking and stuff, which I don't know how active you were in the Baja trip, but man, like you're exhausted and you lay down on that ground and you're out until the sun rises the next day.
Dude, I actually think it's so interesting because I was just thinking about this the other day. I think sometimes the more choice that we have, the more abilities to be uncomfortable that present themselves, right? Like
Mm,
sleeping
sure.
upstairs in my king size bed, right, with my wife, my dog. Um, I have tons of space to get comfy. It's got the pillows, you got the
Yeah.
blanket, and yet there's so many times that you're just like uncomfortable. But yeah, like you're talking about, like you just go on a trip and it's like
Mhm.
you're on the ground in your sleeping bag or you're on a cot in your sleeping bag. It's like, well, there's no moving. This is where you're
Yeah.
sleeping and the choice is taken away from you. So like, I don't know. It's just like there's no thought that goes into it. You just fall asleep. And maybe you wake up with a kink in your back or something. But no, I agree. I'd wake up the next morning like, whew, this is cool. And it's just kind of like sleeping with the windows open. Like you wake up and you felt the air on you
Yeah.
all night and you're like,
Yeah,
all right,
totally.
like ready to start the day.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I like
awesome.
that though. That was a good addition because I definitely think that it's different when you're sleeping out in those moments. And I don't think that anyone complained about it either. Like I obviously didn't, but I don't think
Hmm.
that anyone was like, "Oh, I can't go on this hike because this." I mean, that was the other cool thing about our trip was like everyone was just bought into the experience. No one was like, "Oh, I don't have my cell service," or "Oh, I haven't been able to take a shower," or "Oh, these bathrooms are gross." Like
Yeah.
nothing, none of that. It was just like, "This is it. Like don't complain. Like just enjoy it. You got 5 days here."
Yeah, that
Um,
like that group morale is it like plays such a huge part,
mm-hmm.
specifically on trips, in my opinion.
Big time.
We've both been on trips, whether it's in a bigger group, a small group with just another person, whatever it may be. But that morale can make or break a trip. It can make it the best trip ever, and it could ruin what could be potentially the best trip ever. So the fact that while you were there, everybody was like you said, bought in
Mm-hmm.
as a collective, that makes like the world a difference because if that's not there, then all the other stuff kind of gets tarnished along the way.
Yeah,
So the
no.
fact that everybody was in that mindset is huge when you're on those trips.
It can definitely impact it for better or for worse. And that's why
Yeah.
I'd like to describe it in the beginning. I said it was kind of like lightning in a bottle. And even our
Mm.
professor, so like our professors do the coursework, like they are legitimate, doctors, professors, stuff like that. And um when they go on the trips, like this is their time too to like be out there. They're guiding the students. We have an infield partner and then we typically have two professors that join us.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my professors, Amy Sullivan, who was amazing. I still, I email her and I've asked her a lot of like great questions. Like I consider her someone I like a mentor,
Hmm.
Um, but she had told us like this is a good class. Like this is a really fun group. Like everyone is just really enjoying it. And I did experience that when I went to my Amazon trip. A couple years later, my next trip I went on was in the Amazon rainforest, and it was great, no complaints about it, but the group didn't make it worse, but it didn't like elevate it like this trip did. Like truly the
Sure.
Baja, the group of people that were there, like just
Hmm.
it made it so special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both the students and the infield partners. So
That's
yeah, I
great.
agree. Group morale is everything. But yeah, so let me jump into the final little section here, and this is the most important part. So like I said in the beginning, my biggest fear is the open water. So now that it's last day in the desert, I hadn't really been thinking about it, but oh shoot, we got to go to the ocean tomorrow. Like okay, the desert was the part that I was not worried about. I'm worried about tomorrow and the next 5 days. Um, and so there's a group of us sitting around in right behind the mess hall area, and we're all just kind of sitting around talking, having one of those deep conversations that we had every night. And this time it was just kind of like about fears and mental barriers and stuff like that. And I'm telling everyone about how I'm super nervous about the ocean and how like I'm just worried about like there's something about being out of control for me. Like when I'm in the ocean, I know that I stand no chance on ground against like a tiger or a lion, but there's something about like the ability like I can run that
Yeah.
makes me feel better. Like I'm not gonna swim anywhere near fast. But
Yeah.
regardless, so Megan McDonald, who had showed up later on this trip because her part was really in the Vermilion Sea Institute. Again, she's the person who ran the Sea Institute. She shows up later and didn't. She was kind of like behind the scenes. She was there, but she was not really taking the lead. Because again, she was gonna be more important in the second half. And she's like, "Hey Jake, do you mind coming over here?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot, what am I in trouble for? Like, oh no, what did I do?" And she was like, I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Vermilion Sea Institute because I heard you talking about how nervous you were. She's like, why are you nervous? And I'm just going through what I just said. The ocean freaks me out. Oh, any open water that any open water kind of scares me. And the most common response that I've heard, because I've been afraid of the ocean my whole life, is, oh, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than bit by a shark. Oh, there's no sharks in this area. Oh, this, that, the other. And I hate that because it doesn't make me feel better. But she goes, instead of telling me in that kind of light, she goes, I think that in life, there are experiences out there that are out of our comfort zone. And she draws a little circle on the ground, right? And she goes, imagine this circle as your comfort zone. And then she draws another circle on the outside of that. And she's like, so the inside is your comfort zone. And right outside that circle, you're out of your comfort zone. And she's like, but you're not in total panic, right? You're not like freaking out. You're not like just shutting down. And then she draws another circle. She goes, now if you leave that second circle, this is the zone of panic. This is where we shut down and nothing productive happens. But she goes, this second circle in between the first and the third, that's a place of growth, a place where you can learn things about yourself, a place where you can experience things that maybe you didn't think you could. And she goes on to tell me how the mental barriers that I have set for myself on this trip, and then how people set them for themselves in all aspects of life, and how those mental barriers could prevent me from a really profound moment, an experience, and something that could lead to a lot of growth. And it was an angle that I had never thought of before, right? I had never thought of it that way. It was just a different way of looking at it. And I was like, whoa. And it was just like a super, like I said, profound conversation. And she left it simple. She didn't go on too long. She left it at that. And she's like, so when the time comes, I believe in you. I believe that you will conquer this fear. And if not, that's okay too. So there's two things. I have choice and I have kind of confidence now. I have a reason to conquer that fear. Whereas before that, I was like, I knew that there was going to be some open water snorkeling. I was like, that ain't happening. And it's just not for me. So that happens. And then one of the drivers who, they were super cool. They were in their like late 20s, maybe early 30s, Lalo and Alex, awesome guys. Again, they were family of Raphael. So like, hey man, you guys going to sleep at the old ranch tonight? And I was like, what do you mean sleep at the old ranch? He goes, where we went up today? You guys didn't go sleep there tonight? And I was like, is that an option? He's like, bring it up. He goes, bring it up. So I come to find that Lalo and Alex only present this to the groups of people that they think are like really invested in the trip, like that deserve the opportunity to go sleep up there where Raphael had that speech earlier in the day. And so we go talk to our professor and they're like, oh, okay. So they told you. And they're like, you can only go up there if you present it to charades to the rest of the class. So again, me, Justin, and Alex, the guys that I was spending a lot of time with, we presented it during charades, and about half the class decided that they wanted to go up with. So now what I thought was going to be like, all right, go to your cots and go to bed, became like a big like, all right, we're gearing up for another adventure. We're gearing up for an expedition. You're getting the headlamp on, you got the flashlight out, you got the black light flashlight, and it's like we're going to be doing this like hour hike at night through the desert all the way up there. So everyone's gearing up, and I put on my headphones because I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And I'm listening to music. I'm like, whoa, I haven't heard music in a while. Like this is the first time all trip. And it kind of sparked a moment that's to come. But we all start walking and we got our flashlights. I'm in like the middle of the pack and we're looking around. And again, so quiet and still. Like it is silent. Like there is not a lot of noise out there and there's no wind. And we're just looking for, now this is a good time to see the snakes. So we're looking. We get about halfway, and all of a sudden you hear some commotion in the front. Oh, snake! And it's like, oh gosh. But everyone was respectful. So there was a rattlesnake hiding behind kind of a bush area. I know, it was cool. And like that, I thought we'd be seeing them all over the place. That was the first and only one we saw. So like I had been saying, I'm with this guy, Justin Grubb, and we get up to the point where we're going to see the rattlesnake, and we're looking at it, and he's like, hey man, would you mind hanging out with me? I want to take a few pictures of it. Now, Justin Grubb is a person who I'll talk a lot about on this episode, who we'll have on the podcast. He is really such an inspiration to me. He kind of showed me that I could be like a lot of the people on this trip, but he showed me that I can do these things that I want to do. It's not just some far off dream. Like just start doing it. Yeah. He runs his own wildlife media company, and he wanted to take these professional high-grade photos of this rattlesnake. So I'm like, yeah, man, I'll hang out with you. I'm thinking we're going to be sitting there for like, I don't know, a couple minutes taking pictures. We end up being there for like 45 minutes. And I'm holding the flashlight. And at first I'm like, this is so cool. We're like 4 or 5 feet away from this snake. And it was so calm the entire time. Didn't rattle, didn't move, just was still as can be. Um, and he's taking these pictures, and I feel like he's taking the same picture over and over and over again. I mean, that's the life of a wildlife photographer. He's got this moment, he's going to take advantage of it. But and then at the end of the his shoot, right after, I'm kind of like, man, I wanted to be with the people. Like, what are we missing up there? Like, they're gone, right? We got to find our way now. And he's like, here, man, come here. And he gives me his camera. He's like, take a few pictures. So I take a few, and then he's like adjusting a setting. He's like, all right, do this. I take another picture, and he's like, you see this picture? He goes, it's yours. That's your picture now. And in the moment, I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. But like, now I have this high grade professional photo of this rattlesnake that like I can use whenever I want because it's my photo. He sent me it, and that was really cool. Like, nod to like me staying with him and doing like the flashlight and stuff. So me and him finish up the hike where, we don't know where anyone's at. So we just keep hiking along the path. And finally we find everyone at the top of the ranch. And all of a sudden it's like super windy because now you're at the peak of the mountains. You feel like you're up where the vultures were during the day. Like, you're up really high. And everyone's already kind of in their sleeping bags and like either asleep or like about to go to sleep. And I'm like, shoot, I really want to be part of the camaraderie. And like, okay, whatever, I'll respect that. And everyone goes to bed, and there's me again. Can't sleep. I'm like, oh man, just looking up at the stars. I'm like, this is amazing. And so after a while, I try to journal, but like, it's too bright. I don't want to wake people up. And so I decided to just toss on my headphones. Like I said, I had listened to some music beforehand. I'm like, I'm gonna throw on some music. I'm searching through my like go-tos and through my, I had downloaded my music beforehand. So I'm like going through everything. I'm like, you know what? And then all of a sudden, I just, for some reason, I was like, The Sound of Silence by Disturbed. I'm going to throw that on. And man, it's going to sound dramatic, but I feel like I had this moment that will be cemented in my life, like this vision that I will have forever. So I'm sitting there and the song starts, and it is the exact vibe of that moment. Like, is on par with exactly how I was feeling, and just like the grandiose nature of looking up at this amazing galaxy ahead of us, like the Milky Way and everything. So I'm sitting there and I listen to the song, and I'm kind of, how they say like at the end of your life, like it all flashes before you. I feel like the whole trip was just kind of flashing in those moments, right? I'm seeing the whole trip kind of up to that moment, and all those inspirational talks, that especially that one with Megan, all the adventurous things that we had been doing, all of the misconceptions that I had beforehand and how wrong I was. And in that moment, staring up the sky, listening to The Sound of Silence, I decided, I was like, you know what? This is the life I want to live. This is the path I want to be on. In some way, shape, or form, I'm going to pursue this life. Now, that has led me down to starting the Dreamers Initiative, being part of this podcast, Chasing Wild, and is at the very essence of truly one of the most important things in my life. I mean, I have like family and passion, right? Like the people in my life, and then this passion. So, and that was that moment where I just decided I'm bought in, like this is it. And yeah, it was incredible. It was a moment I'll never forget. Every time Sound of Silence comes on, I'm just transported to the top of that ranch, and then the next morning, and we wake up, and we had been, the reason we slept at the top of that ranch is because we're doing this longer hike to this kind of basin where a lot of nomadic tribes thousands of years ago had wandered through and had done a lot of drawings on the wall. So like, you have these incredible archaeological sites that you're seeing the next morning. We're seeing the sunrise over this basin. We woke up before it was bright out. We're hiking. It's like 4 a.m. I feel like I got an hour of sleep, and we're hiking again. And all of a sudden, you're seeing the sun over the entire desert just kind of rise. I played Circle of Life in my head, some Lion King real quick. It hit the moment. In my headphones. And then you're seeing these archaeological sites, and that just capped off the desert in the perfect way. And I just had this newfound energy, this new purpose, this new kind of confidence that, again, has led me to this moment right now. Like, it was instrumental in putting me on this path of being a conservationist, and really who I am now. So
Yeah.
that's the desert.
Oh, dude, I didn't want to break up your flow at all for like that last part of
I
the
know,
trip.
dude. I'm
I mean,
sorry. I was going, but I got in the
no,
flow, and
oh man,
that last day, like the whole day was so special, and so. But go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, though obviously the two big impactful conversations that like you'll carry with you for the rest of your
Mm-hmm.
life. The one with Megan, that
Yeah.
correct about the
Yes.
about getting out of your comfort zone. I loved like how she put that with instead of just telling you, what you're supposed to expect, what the
Mm-hmm.
facts are, she really tried to like understand or help try to help you understand why you were thinking that way, and like
Yes.
how you could push through that barrier that you were kind of like confining yourself with, and and fulfill your potential in a way. And that kind of sounds like a little bit corny, but like that's what I'm hearing when you tell me that. And take those like chains off of yourself, like, oh, I can't
Dude.
do it, or
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I'll be okay just watching everybody else do it, like it's okay. Which, I mean, for some people maybe that is, but
Mm-hmm.
I know you and I are not those type of people. Like we really really want to um immerse ourselves fully in whatever it is, especially these types of trips. So I love what you said about that with Megan, and then also with like Sound of Silence. If
Mm.
you're listening, anybody listening to this episode that hasn't heard Sound of Silence by Disturbed, I recommend it. And even better than that, look up the live version on YouTube, because
Mm-hmm.
that's, oh my God, like I can't imagine laying out on my cot in the open air in the desert with it being silent and just popping in my headphones and
Oh,
listening
and
to
that
Sound
one
of
we were on the
Silence.
ground. We didn't bring our cots to the top of the ranch.
Oh,
We
okay.
were on the
Okay.
ground there, and like you're thinking
Even
like,
better.
okay, snakes, scorpions,
Yeah,
spiders, everything just didn't matter. It was all
sure.
gone. You're just part of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's a powerful song. I mean, and again, Simon and Garfunkel had the original, so the Disturbed version is the cover, but that is
Yeah.
my preferred version, especially after that moment.
Okay. And then that was the last day, and that transitions. Um, we're not going to transition yet because I have a
Mm-mm.
few a few sort of questions to reflect that we'll talk about. But that is like where we're going to leave it with that first part of the trip.
Yep.
Anything
Yep.
else you want to talk about, like transitioning to the next part? Um, Anything you want to discuss in that sense?
Yeah, no. So just leave it like we had that really incredible like morning view of the canyon. We hiked back like now it's like a 2 hour hike
Hmm.
back to our spot, and you had this sense of accomplishment for
Yeah.
a lot of people. Like it was really amazing. Even the people who didn't go sleep up at the ranch that night, they met us there.
Yeah.
They met us there when we started the trek in the morning. Um, and it was a far, long hike up the mountains and stuff. So like you had this sense of accomplishment. Everyone had just like really felt like, we had done something special. I know that there was a lot of people who had a lot of misconceptions about the desert. I feel like it's a lot more mysterious than some other places. Like you go to Tanzania, you're going on safari.
Sure.
But yeah, we pack up, we jump in the cars, and it's like, oof, time for round two. Like when you have 5 days that are
Yeah.
that amazing,
Hmm.
and you're gonna be you're that sad to leave. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the next five. Like it's only gonna be better and more incredible. And it was. It just kept building. So yeah, that's where it left.
Awesome.
Left about morning the next day, and we had about I think it was like a 5 hour drive to the Vermilion Sea Institute. So it was
Okay.
not like next door. Like you had to drive all the way to the other side of Baja. So
Okay. Well, now that we've heard this first part of the trip, we've heard about
mm-hmm.
the desert. I loved every second of it. I want to ask, like, moving, now that the trip is over, how did your misconceptions about, or maybe like underappreciation of going to the desert, just, the desert as a whole in general, how did that change when you got back from the trip or when you went to the ocean? How did it change at that point?
Yeah, it showed me how you don't know everything, right?
Mm.
And maybe the things that you want to search for aren't necessarily the things that you're going to find true enjoyment out of, right? I, like I said in the beginning, I tend to want to go, well, I tended beforehand to want to go to places that had a lot of animals, right? I want to go see as many different animal species as I can. And that's
Yeah.
still a very big part of me, a huge wildlife, very passionate about wildlife, but it showed me how the experience of the desert wasn't about the animals. It was more about honestly the people we were with and like the
Mm.
camaraderie and the vegetation, right? The fauna, so or the flora, right?
Yeah.
Getting that mixed up. But
The flora of the plants. Yeah.
yeah.
And the fauna.
So
Yep.
but yeah, that was, and like again, I felt guilty about how I had felt beforehand. I was like, "Oh, I'm not excited to go to the desert. What am I going to learn there?" And it humbles you, and it's like I felt like I insulted, even though I never said that, but I felt like, "Wow, how could I insult Raphael's complete family heritage and history?" And like
Mm.
I insulted their way of life, and I had no idea what it would entail. So um, and then just to like, you think the desert, you think like hot, a ton of bugs, and maybe like, I don't know, just kind of like, like super boring. That was kind of the thought I had, but
Mm.
it's a dry hot, so it's not a humid hot.
Yeah.
It's way less buggy than I would have thought. Like you're not like there's not creepy crawlies all around you. There's not all these snakes and scorpions and everything everywhere. They are, but you're just not seeing them. And then just the stillness and the calmness and the
Mm.
beauty in just like the open desert and how it is very humbling. Yeah, that was kind of the miss. I was like not excited to go, and I cannot wait to go back. I mean, I can wait because I'm not wishing life away, but I'm so pumped to go back one day.
So you would do it again. That's what I was going to ask you next.
Oh, I mean, so little teaser for in the future. We're trying to make this podcast. We're trying to grow a community here, a community of people who are like really on board with, the things that we're talking about, chasing wildlife, or sorry, chasing wild in every sense of the way. And when we build a community of people, and when there are enough people listening, we want to be bringing these people to these places to get these experiences, because that's the way that you're going to really change your mind. If someone had tried to tell me about the desert like I am to you, maybe I would open my eyes a little bit. But when you experience it for yourself is really when you can
Mhm.
really make that change. And so one day, when we get to the point where the adventure company is part of this, we will be going to Baja California 100%. I've been in contact with them, both the Vermilion Sea Institute and the ranch, and they were like, "Yeah, come down. We'll have you. It's super cheap. It's authentic. It's amazing." And yes, I will go back 100%.
Awesome. And then is it, for those listening, is it possible for people, let's say somebody's listening, they're like, this sounds amazing, Jake. I want to do this trip next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible for people to do a similar trip to what you did without being in a program like Project Dragonfly?
It's a great question. So there's a couple ways you can go about it. The answer is yes. You do not have to be enrolled in the master's program to do Project Dragonfly Earth expeditions. Now, this may be dependent on availability. Like if
Hmm.
certain courses with Dragonfly are always filled up. Like the Galapagos Islands is always filled just because it's very sought after. But there tends to be a few spots open on the trips to Baja California, Belize, a variety of the other trips, and you can do them even if you're not part of the program. You
Okay.
pay through online through Dragonfly, but yeah, you can do that and be part of it. And I honestly have considered going on a few of the other EEs, even though I've graduated from the program. And then additionally, if you just wanted to go there, I would believe yes. If someone is super curious about it, DM me on, Instagram, or, shoot us a message somehow, leave a comment here on the YouTube channel, wherever you're at. And I could get in touch with them, because it was super easy for me to just contact them and be like, hey, I want to bring a group of people here, do something similar like Project Dragonfly did. Is that possible? And they're like, absolutely. They want to
Cool.
share what they have with other people, because the whole idea is to inspire and get people to care about these areas. So, long story short, yes, there is ways.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's when I hear about these trips, I'm like, oh, dude, like, how do I go do that? You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, you
When
get
I
the
hear,
bug. You're like, oh, let's
oh
go.
my
Like,
God, yeah, when I hear about those trips, I'm like, I want to go do that. So I think it's cool that we were able to talk about how somebody listening might be able to go on a similar trip because I think for those reasons you talked about, any person would enjoy it. I think
yeah,
for the
and
most part, any person that wants to go on these adventures would enjoy trips like your Baja one. So it's
and I
great
encourage
stuff.
people listening, like I've talked about this a little bit, but just last thing, go on trips with people you don't know. You know,
Mm,
find these group trips that are led by experts that can show you the authentic ways of these areas and with while you're around other people. Like I've built so many incredible relationships. I've networked with people. It's just the path that it puts you on is incredible, and sharing those experiences with strangers just makes it all the much more worthwhile. So I really highly encourage that. You know, get out of your comfort zone with people and places.
and just yeah, I completely agree with that, and that's something I hope to do in the future, like go on these bigger group trips where you get to connect with strangers, like quite frankly,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's people in the group, whether that's the local people in the area you're traveling to.
Yeah.
I think that's such a sort of fulfilling and eye-opening thing. So I love what you said about that. And then just sort of to like wrap up and round out this first part of your Baja trip, what would you, if you're sitting across from, Raphael, Megan, the people that you um, had these meaningful conversations, interactions on the trip with, if you're sitting across from them right now, would there be some things that you'd want to say to them? This has been 5 years or so
Mm-hmm.
since you've been on the trip. Is there anything that you'd want to say to them if they're sitting across from us right now?
Dude, excellent question. First off, that's a heavy hitter to end the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. To Megan, I would want to say thank you for approaching my situation, my mental barriers with free of judgment and free of like just kind of providing me with the facts, and thank you for helping me think different. I really appreciate you allowing me to think that way because it has been something that I apply to so many different situations in my life now. It's not about what you know, it's about the way that you think, right? And if you can just get yourself over that hump, it was truly incredible. So thank you to Megan for that. To Raphael, thank you for sharing your home, for sharing your family's culture, for sharing your land and the things that you do with all of us. The authentic nature of that desert, and just for keeping it authentic. Like you didn't
Mhm.
go there and it wasn't like, oh yeah, here's the desert and here's how my family used to live. Now walk into this cool AC, go take a shower, plug in your phone. It's like no, like you're jumping into the desert. So thank you for being exactly who you are and for allowing us to come into your home and sharing that experience with all of us students because 5 years from now, me as an individual, one person who went on your trip, and I know there's many, many, many other over the years,
Mhm.
is trying to do everything that I can in my own personal life because of what you showed me, because of the incredible things that you guys do at the ranch and at the sea. And so I would say thank you, and to the incredible work that you do as a holistic health practitioner. And then to both of them, to Megan and Raphael and Lane and anyone who's part of that program and all of Dragonfly in general, just like thank you for setting up these experiences so that students can go learn and be part of this because I've always been someone who's been passionate about wildlife and maybe less conservation in my early days, but like wildlife and adventures. And it's shown me how, again, I can be this change that I want to see and how there's
Mhm.
incredible people doing this amazing work out there. And there's no one better to do it than you, right? And doing it in your
Yeah.
own authentic way. So, yeah, just a huge thank you. Such a huge moment in my life, and everyone who played a part in it was amazing. So, yeah, great question.
How about we wrap it up right there? Does that sound like a good
Yeah,
spot?
no, we're only at about an hour and 10 minutes. That wasn't over
Yeah.
our intended. You know, we didn't set any constraints. You know, we're learning this podcast and just getting a feel for how we want to do things here. So, yeah, hour and 10 minutes, and I think that it was a lot of fun. Great job moderating and great questions. That was huge for me. I know I get a little lost in the story sometimes.
Oh, I got to sit back and enjoy, so it was a lot of fun for me.
Sweet. So
Time flies.
Time flies. Yeah, but thank you everyone for listening to this episode, joining us at the Rancho San Gregorio out in the Sonoran Desert. It was truly an amazing time talking about it. I've been wanting to talk about it since I got back. Next week we're going to be getting to how that whale shark taught me a life lesson. Now this was all part of the build up because there would have been no whale shark without that moment with Megan McDonald and the moment under the stars. So we're getting there, but yeah, make sure to join us next time to join into the Vermilion Sea Institute. Make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on our socials. Participate, and again, leave a comment. Share some stories with us, and we're excited to hear from you next time. Thanks.